Happy Memorial Day, everybody, and Tony here with the review of Verdi's Il Trovatore, which was shown at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. The conductor was Roberto Rizzi-Brignoli, the production was done by Hans Neuenfels, the set design and costumes were done by Reinhard von der Tannen, the assistant director was Gerlinda Pelkowski, and the chorus master was William Spalding. As I said before in my review of this particular opera during the time I was in Budapest, Il Trovatore is one of my most favorite Verdi operas of all time, but kind of for the wrong reasons. Mostly because of its convoluted and almost hackneyed story, but at the same time, it has one of the most wonderful melodies and probably some of my most favorite arias to be found in this opera. And I was really anticipating this production because of two singers. One singer that I have basically been following her career for some time, mostly on YouTube, Angela Mead, who sang Leonora, and one singer who was totally new to me, who sang the title role, Murat Karahan. We'll get to them later, but first, let's get on to what I thought about the production. In general, this production screams a total mishmash, a total hodgepodge of style, atmosphere, elements, that it just sort of became, let's just throw in whatever came out of our head and then just kind of roll with it. But let's get on to the specifics of why I felt this production was sort of a crazy mishmash of ideas. The opera starts with Ferrando dressed up in like 16th century clothing, all black, with his long beard and really poofy hair. And his subordinates also have long beards and black attire to basically suggest that these guys have served the old Count di Luna and probably a lot of his forefathers for many, many, many years. And I kind of liked how this basically started off, even though it was kind of silly. And speaking of silly, yes, there were definitely moments in which the henchmen did a lot of really silly movements, like almost prancing around on stage and kind of like doing silly dances from time to time. And I kind of thought to myself, that was kind of weird, but okay, I kind of have to roll with it. And then we get treated to some moments where there's a little bit of nudity and a lot of Christian overtones to be found in this opera. There are just a lot of outstanding moments to be found in this particular production, like the finale of the second act, where Ferrando kind of makes a move on Inez, and a lot of his subordinates basically make a move on the nuns before Leonora is about to be christened as a nun, and before she gets rescued by Manrico. Yeah, there is just a lot of stuff that kind of goes really crazy in this opera, because I guess what Hans Neuenfels is just trying to convey is that yes, Il Trovatore's story is complete and utter nonsense. And don't ask me to review the story of this opera because it's, like I said, it's complete and utter nonsense. It's melodramatic for the sake of being melodramatic, and sometimes the plot twists almost come the hell out of nowhere. So I think what Mr. Neuenfels was really working with was a very insane and almost hackneyed story. So he basically tried to amp up the insanity by including a lot of crazy movements for the Counts and Ferrando's underlings, throw in some nudity here and there, and also make Manrico and the Conte de Luna dress up identically, as if to say, okay, it's not subtle that these two are long-lost brothers. Hence the matching Toreador outfits. And I will say that the costumes are very, very colorful and very, very interesting and grand in their own special way to look at. And it does reflect the overall hodgepodge style. I mean, you have costumes from the 15th century, then you have costumes from like the 18th century, the 19th century, all the way up to some costumes of the 20th and 21st century. So I'm not gonna mince words here. This production, despite its utter nonsense and despite its overall clutter, I have to say it's kind of appealing to me in its own strange way. I especially liked how it ended with Manrico basically given the dagger from the Luna, and he decides to kill himself. And then when the Luna finds the truth that he's his own brother, he finally goes batshit and basically takes out his 2 pistols and shoots the heck out of Dodge, and, well, he kind of goes insane as well. So overall, I really have to say that the production was kind of interesting in its own special way. There were some things I liked about it, and there were certain things that just ask, what the hell did I watch? But what more can you expect from someone like Hans Neuenfels? He's been kind of well known for really producing a lot of controversial opera productions. And this production has a huge hodgepodge of style, costumes, trying to be silly, trying to be serious, trying to be what the hell, and trying to be everything all at once. And the result was, well, it was kind of intriguing from beginning to end. Not gonna mince words here. And then we get to the scene, starting off with our main hero, Manrico, sung tonight by Murat Karahan. Now, I first heard this gentleman on YouTube singing Macdufo's aria from Macbeth, Alla paterno mano, and I thought he had a very fine voice, and I did also read his biography. It seemed as though that he also had his beginnings as a full lyric tenor, specializing in the likes of Edgardo from Lucia de Lammermoor and Alfredo from La Traviata. At first, when he started, I didn't care too much for it. I thought he was just lukewarm, but he really warmed himself up much later in the opera, and he just built himself up even further, and the result was absolutely splendid. His voice was absolutely gorgeous all throughout. His timbre was focused, it was clean, it was fine all throughout, and his high notes were clarion. However, what I seem to notice is that he sang the Di Quella Pira in B. Well, I usually love it when any tenor would really dare himself to sing Di Quella Pira in the original key of C so that he can really hit those high Cs. But I thought he did rather well in that. He did fabulously singing Di Quella Pira, and he also got his well-deserved round of applause. And his overall style and manner were just so well done. He was totally in his element, really embodying this title hero. However, we have at our disposal all of the great Manricos of the past, like Mario del Monaco, Franco Corelli, Carlo Bergonzi, and even the likes of Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, Jose Carreras, Giovanni Tenatello, and Giacomo Lauri Volpi. And with Murat Karahan, he was solid all throughout. He has a very fine instrument, and he has a very fine stage presence, and he's very handsome on stage as well. Singing the role of his lover, Leonora, we have Angela Mead, a true dramatic coloratura soprano that I have admired, and one that I have heard lots of times on YouTube but never heard her live. What I seem to notice is that she started off singing the classic dramatic coloratura soprano roles of the Queen of the Night, Constanze, Lucia, Donna Anna, and Rosalinda from the Fledermaus before heading to the heavier roles of Norma, Anna Bolena, and a lot of the heavier bel canto stuff, including the likes of Hermione. Heck, she even sang some of the other Leonoras from La Forza del Destino in a concert. And wow, This is a voice you really, really have to see and hear live. I totally agree with my fellow opera reviewer, Rona Sutton, aka Cantor and Opera's opinions about Miss Mead when she talked about her performance as Elvira from Hernani live from the Met. What more can I say about Miss Mead that hasn't been said already? She has a voice that is full of beauty, agility, opulence, strength, and has a very, very clarion instrument. I've heard a lot of good to really, really excellent reviews of the soprano, and she totally lives up to the hype. Every time she sings those D flats in her Tacea la notte and her D'amor sull'ali rose, she really, really sings it gorgeously. She sings with such fine pianissimi, and I especially love that fortissimo D flat in the Di geloso amore sprezzato trio, which I always love, especially when it comes to having a tenor, a soprano, and a baritone really, really singing their lungs out in this trio. Usually I would have loved the tenor to sing a D flat as well at the end of the trio, but with Miss Mead singing that fortissimo D flat, I thought she was fabulous. She really knows how to manipulate that wonderful, fine instrument of hers. And as I said before, she is an example of a true dramatic coloratura soprano. A soprano who can sing the high notes very lightly in her head using all of that fine technique and handle all of the trills, the runs, all of that coloratura work, and go gently to the low notes as well. She is a singer of such versatility and opulence that I have admired her even further. So, Miss Mead, kudos to you. You were definitely the star of the evening. And what more can I say? She was definitely the star of the evening. Every time she finished her arias, she basically had us, the audience, at the palm of her hand, and we basically gave her the rounds of applause that she rightfully deserved. And then we have the main villain, Conte di Luna, sung by Dalibor Yenes. And I've been seeing a lot of this baritone in a lot of opera stages, and I really felt like he is totally in his element singing a lot of these baryton noble roles, and this is definitely a role that I feel like is one of his best, because I really love it when a true baryton noble sings Il Conte di Luna. He's very handsome on stage, he has a very fine instrument, and he has a very strong stage presence. You can feel his menacing glares. You can feel his overall presence. It just captivates you when he embodies this character. And he manages to really, really make this count kind of menacing, yet at the same time alluring and very charming. And that's what I thought he had overall, not just in his stage presence, but in his voice as well. It has an alluring feature and a charm that I could barely take my ears and eyes off of. It is that thrilling to listen to, and he embodied his role really well, using the right amount of menace, the right amount of charm, and the right amount of dimension in which he really adds to his character wonderfully. And then we have the role that basically steals the show for any great dramatic mezzo, Azucena, sung tonight by the wonderful mezzo contralto, Dana Beth Miller. And wow, this is definitely her finest hour yet. Her voice was opulent, rich, and it has that certain edge that I feel like she managed to bring into Azucena, and has certain moments of tenderness as well, especially when she sings Ai nostri monti. She has a voice of homogeneousness and a voice of really great quality, and she brings in a lot of charisma and charm to this iconic Verdi mezzo role. She doesn't just make Azucena someone who is so, caught up with the madness that has happened to her, but she makes her a very strong, fierce, calculating woman that it's just so thrilling to watch. I love to see her every time on stage. She imbued this character with charisma and charm and energy. She really made the role of Azucena her own, which is no surprise, as she has sung this iconic Verdi mezzo role for many years and has made it her own. She was also the one who basically stole the show as well, and I loved her chemistry with Murat Karahan's Manrico, Angela Mead's Leonora, and a lot of the other fine singers of this opera. And then we have the very thankless basso role of Ferrando, sung by Marco Mimica, who used his very fine and elegant bass baritone voice to embody such a thankless character-based role. He fulfills this role with dignity and a fine sense of lyricism and strength. And I have to really give my hat off to Mr. Mimica for really embodying this very thankless character with dignity, charm, and a sense of power to really embody this character. He did fabulously. Then we have the role of Ruiz, who is Manrico's servant, sung tonight by the wonderful character tenor Burkhard Ulrich, who uses his character tenor voice in such a fine manner, and even when he sings pianissimo, he sings it so heavenly. And then we have Ines, Leonora's confidant, sung tonight by Annika Schlicht, who has a very fine timbre and uses it to her advantage to embody this extremely thankless character role. And special kudos has to go to the chorus members who sang the roles of the old gypsy and the messenger, Sung Jun Kon and Hong Kyun Oh, for lending their voices very, very well in what really has to be very, very, very thankless roles, as they only have one line of singing. And special kudos also has to go to the dancers, Anna Dordovic, Martin Bushko, Derek Amanatidis, and Julian Abril for really contributing a lot to this opera and its particular brand of production. So overall, not going to mince words about the singing. I thought it was just wonderful all around, with Miss Angela Mead really being the star of the evening. In fact, in her case, this opera might as well be called Leonora d'Aragon. And the conducting done by Roberto Rizzi Brignoli was equally as well done, nuanced, and very fine all throughout. The one that really stood out most for me was the prison scene, in which we hear a repeat of Stride la Lampa, and done in a way that was slightly slow, but I thought it managed to really build up to the tragic end of this crazy opera. And he was really nuanced, really paying close attention to the text and making sure that the singers, the chorus, and the orchestra sing together in harmony. And the chorus of the Deutsche Oper Berlin. What more can I say about these guys? They were just wonderful. So overall, While this production is just so all over the place, and the other thing I also have to say about this is that there were moments in which we even see some German texts when this opera was mainly sung in Italian. Why didn't they use Italian instead? Because this opera was sung in Italian, but I digress. But basically, despite the overall hodgepodge production, this is kind of a production that I seem to enjoy, and special mention really has to go to all of the singers, especially Angela Mead, for really embodying Leonora with beauty, agility, charisma, and strength, and really, really making the best out of this fine Verdi soprano role. And special kudos has to go to Maestro Rizzi Brignoli for bringing everyone together. So if you haven't seen this particular production of this opera yet, I highly suggest that if you're very open-minded, then go ahead and check it out. If you love the more traditional productions, then this might not be for you. But I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed, especially when you have a cast of very fine singers. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in to another review of another favorite Italian opera of mine, and this time we are heading to the Verismo period with Puccini's Tosca at the Staatsoper im Theater. So until then, good night everybody, and I hope your Memorial Day weekend has been fabulous.